That's a problem. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff and welcome to my shop. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, please check out my channel. In this video, we're going to be fabricating a light mount that's going to go inside a Classic Craftsman Drill Press. That's a 150 or a 100 series, really doesn't matter. They all are kind of similar on the inside, and that's what we're most concerned with. So I'm going to kind of be making this up as I go along. It's kind of how I do things when I fabricate. And at the end of this project, we're going to have a power panel light bracket that's basically going to fit inside the head casting of the drill press, and it's going to wrap around the column. And if you're going to do exactly what I did, you're going to have to drill a 1/2-inch hole on the side of your drill press head for the switch. But if you just want to do the light, you can omit all of the other stuff and just concentrate on the light, and then put an inline switch for the power cable. Or just take what you see in these two videos. I think that's probably how long it's going to take to do this, and then come up with your own plan. But I wanted to design a power panel that was going to have minimal impact on the drill press. I already had a hole in the side of the head for the switch, so that was no big deal for me. I decided to do this video series because I had a viewer that asked me about how I put a light in these drill presses. And this is the power panel I normally use. But this power panel is not going to work in this drill press anymore because I'm going to install a Vari-SLO. And the Vari-SLO uses a lot of space in there. So the power panel is going to have to sit below that. And for it to do that, it's going to have to wrap around the column. So I'm going to go over some of the stuff you're going to need. You're going to need a power cable. And that's a 14-3 10-foot long power cable. But you can use 16-3 wire. It's a little cheaper. And most of this stuff I got from Lowe's. And this is a 16-3 9-foot power cable for 15 bucks. Next, you're going to need a single pull, single throw toggle switch. And I get this at Lowe's as well for $3.98. And next, you're going to need a light socket. This is a medium base, and it's porcelain. And it's got a bracket on the back side of it, and you're going to need that little threaded insert. So if it doesn't come with the socket that you get, you're going to need that. And you only need one nut, but here they are at Lowe's, $3.98, easy peasy. Next, you're going to need this conduit hanging bracket. This is a 2-inch hanging bracket. And yes, I'm aware that the column is 2 3/4, but this will work, and they're only $3.20 at Lowe's. And then you're going to need to replace that carriage bolt that's in there. It's a 1/4 thread, and you need a 2.5-inch long carriage bolt, which is going to cost you all of 25 cents, I believe. You also need a washer, a lock washer, and you can just reuse the nut that comes with the bracket. 25 cents for the bolt. 2.5 inches, 1/4 thread, carriage bolt. Next, you're going to need a rubber grommet. That's a 3/8 inside diameter, and you can get a pack of them from Amazon. Next, you're going to need a snap-in receptacle, and you can get those from Amazon, $8.69. Next, you're going to need a medium base light bulb. LEDs are going to handle the vibration better, and they don't put off heat, so not that one. This is the one that you need. And they're $9.98 for 2 of them. And then you need this angle bracket, L bracket, from Lowe's. And it is a 2-inch by 3-inch. So it's designed for a 2x6, I believe. And you can get it from Lowe's for $2.68. Next, you're going to need some connectors. And I like using these closed-in crimp cap connectors, Amazon, and you're going to need 2 of these blue female Spade connectors. You're also going to need some tools. This is crimpers, a hog ring tool with hog rings, a pair of wire strippers, and I'll list all this in the description of the video as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to modify the L bracket to look something like this piece of cardboard. We basically want it to be kind of a T shape, and we want that center section of the T to be about an inch wide. So I'm just using a ruler and a Sharpie to mark it off. And this is going to fit inside on the flat part of the conduit hanger. You'll see how all this kind of goes together as we go along. So after we've got that marked, we're going to take this over to the bandsaw and cut it out. If you don't have a bandsaw, you can just use a hacksaw. Or if you're feeling frisky and you think you're good enough, you could use a sawzall. And this angle looks like I'm going to cut my fingers off, but no. I'm really safe around saws. Scared to death of them, so that's a healthy fear. And once we've got it cut out, then we're going to take it over to the belt sander and clean it up. This is an awesome 1-inch belt sander. I really should find another one of these and do a rebuild video on it, because these things are so underrated. They're so much better than the Harbor Freight crap that's out there. And now that we got that cleaned up, we're going to go over to the hanger and drill out the hole on it so that our thread insert is going to fit inside that hole. So I think it's a 3/8, so we might go a little bit bigger than 3/8, but see how the bracket is dropped in there now? And we want it as close to the width of that gap as possible so that it doesn't rock back and forth. Then we're just going to use the hanger and the hole and mark that on the L bracket. And then we'll just use a spring-loaded punch to give us a good starting point for the drill bit. And then we'll take that over to the drill press. And we're just drilling that out using the same size drill bit that we used on the hanger. And then we'll clean that up with a deburring tool. If you don't have one of those, you can just use a round file. Make sure everything lines up good. Check that that threaded insert fits in there fine. Okay, so next we've got the light socket, and we need to remove the bracket that's on the back side of it. So there's 2 Phillips head screws that are on the inside of it, and you can just spin those out and that bracket will slide off of the wiring. And to be honest with you, we really didn't have to do this step, but like I said, I'm trying to figure this out as I go along. I wanted to put a nut on the inside of that bracket like I have here, but that's not necessary. We're going to use some Loctite in the final assembly, so that nut is just redundant and I end up omitting it altogether. And then we're going to just put this back together. So you will need 1 nut, but not 2. Once we've got it all back together, next we're going to install it on the L bracket. and then install the L bracket inside the hanging conduit hanger. So you're going to have to thread the wires through the conduit hanger, and then through the L bracket. And this is me not thinking about what I'm doing here and trying to just overthink it. Way more complicated than it needed to be. Anyways, that's kind of what we're going to end up with. So we're going to throw that nut on there so that this whole thing will stay together. And then we're going to test fit it inside the drill press. So literally, if all you want is a light, this is all you really kind of need to do. And then you can just connect your power cable to those two leads, add the ground, and then put a switch somewhere, and you're done. So we got to open the conduit bracket up a little bit because, like I said, it's a 2-inch conduit bracket, and we're dealing with a 2 3/4 inch column. So what we would do is we would lift the head on the drill press so that the column is recessed below, and then slide this bracket in there and then lower the drill press head down, and all of this will be captured on the column. So as we get this kind of lined up, I'll put a little arrow pointer in here showing where the bores are that we need to sit below. Those are the lock bores, and we need to sit below those. So nothing from the Vari-SLO goes beyond those. So as long as we're below that, we're good. And that still gives us a good 2.5, 3 inches roughly of playroom in the bottom of the head. As you can see, the straight through the head down at the table, the bottom of your drill press head is wide open. So putting a bulb in there is not a problem. But this bulb is too big, and that's why we're using the other bulbs that I showed you at the beginning of the video. The problem with the other bulb is it's a flood and it's directional. So we're going to have to angle that light mount, and we're going to do that in video 2. So we'll take that all apart. And next we need to continue modifying that L bracket. So it's just easier if I put some painter's tape on there and then draw on the painter's tape. But basically what we're doing is we're going to trace out a 15/16 square. And that's for the receptacle. And then we'll put 1/4 inch circles in each one of the corners. And we also need to go ahead and drill out the hole for the power cord. That'll go on the other side. You can see it there. And then we'll use the spring-loaded punch to give us a good starting point for the drill bits. You should be able to see what we're doing here. We're going to basically drill 4 holes and then connect those holes with a Dremel cutoff wheel. So yours should look something like that. And just using a 1/4 inch bit, we'll drill out all 4 of those holes. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but the closer you are to those measurements, the better. After we got them drilled out, then we're just going to use a cutoff wheel on a Dremel and connect those 4 holes to cut out that square. And then we'll knock that piece out, and the L bracket got really hot because we were cutting on it with that cutoff wheel. So I'm not going to touch it. And we'll just break that chunk out of there. Then we're going to file out that hole and get it nice and square and as close to our 15th, 16th dimensions that we can get it. Now, if you go too big, then your receptacle won't snap in there and stay in there. It'll snap in, but then every time you try to unplug whatever you've got plugged into it, the motor or whatever, it's just going to come right out of that bracket. The goal here is for it to be a solid snap-in receptacle that you can plug in the motor and it stays in that L bracket. Like so. So now that we've got that test fit, we can go ahead and pull that back out, and we just need to drill out the hole for the power cord. And yeah. So remove all that tape and set that aside, and it should look something like that. And next we're just going to go ahead and start getting ready to do all the wiring. And this is going to wrap up the video. I don't want it to be too long, and in part 2 we'll finish this, I think. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. I appreciate all the support, and I will see you next time.